Hello, and welcome back to our hate crime awareness campaign. And today we're meeting with members of the Northern Ireland Housing Executive. Unfortunately, many hate crimes are connected to the home, which is why it's vitally important that we work in strong partnerships with the Housing Executive to support victims of hate crime. Here's what they had to say. Jill and Sylvia, thanks for being with us here today. I just wanted to see if you would like to start out and tell us a bit about yourselves and your current roles within the Housing Executive.
Okay, I'm Jill Smyth and I'm the Community Safety Manager for Northern Ireland Housing Executive. So my role would be to provide policy advice and support to our frontline staff across the province to help them to report and investigate and deal with antisocial behaviour cases, including hate harassment incidents in housing executive estates.
I'm Slywia McAvoy. I'm the Race Relations Officer, and my role would be for Housing Executive, of course, and my role would be more preventative. So I would work in partnerships with other organizations to make sure that we create safer, more peaceful neighbourhoods and more cohesive communities across the province.
Excellent. And if you just want to talk about from your different perspectives, what the Housing Executive is doing currently to address hate crime and promote diversity in different communities throughout Northern Ireland.
Do you go first, Sylvia?
Okay. I work with 13 good relations officers province-wide. We support grassroots organizations and a community-led projects that would increase community cohesion, that would increase and raise awareness of different cultures and build relationships between local community groups and host community, as well as minority ethnic groups and communities living in our states. And all of this is really to create a wider awareness and acceptance of diversity, and in doing so, hopefully preventing hate crime. During COVID, that work has been much more challenging. Quite a number of events had to take place on Zoom. One of the current projects that is running and is really successful is Oasis Young Minds in Portadown and Craigavon, and this is a project between two estates. And it's children and young people. It's really age 5 to 18. And they are delivering a project on cultural awareness. So friendships are being built in two estates, and we really hope that that will flourish as children continue their friendships out in their community, and that acceptance of diversity will grow, and therefore hate crime will be reduced in the area.
Fantastic. Sylvia, Jill, I'd like to come to you with this question. What do you think, building on what Sylvia said, what are some of the considerations and barriers to addressing hate crime from a housing executive perspective?
Thanks, Sylvia. From a community safety perspective, the Housing Executive aims to provide safe environments within our estates so that our residents can live free from peace and quiet, I suppose, within the estates, and free from the after effects and the serious effects of incidents such as hate crime, intimidation, harassment, and antisocial behaviour. Hate incidents, whether or not a crime, are a form of antisocial behaviour. The Housing Executive is committed to deal quickly and effectively with hate incidents that are reported within Housing Executive estates. We wish to advise all residents to report all incidents, any witnesses to come forward and report any incidents to the Housing Executive so we can investigate any reports of hate harassment that is occurring within our Housing Executive estates. We do work in partnership. Results are always better when we work together as organisations. We work in partnership with the police, with the local councils, with the local voluntary and community sectors, and of course with the Hate Crime Advocacy Service to provide support to individuals who are suffering from hate crime.
Excellent, Jill. And the next question is for Sylvia. Just wanted to see, you're the Race Relations Officer, so what are some of the issues for newcomers to Northern Ireland today from a race relations perspective? What projects are currently being facilitated or funded in the grassroots to address evolving race relations issues?
Some of the issues that they would face would be language barriers, sustainable housing, a sense of belonging in where they are, and information and access to available services. And I suppose again our projects would be to try and provide as much information as we can, and try and provide it in different languages when possible as well. And if anyone comes and looks for help or assistance, we would assist, and we would also signpost and refer where required. And another project that we run around race relations is actually with Northwest Migrant Forum, and that project is called Challenge to Change, and it's done with BME women who are reclaiming their voice in a public and civic space. And they are building together a sense of confidence and leadership to challenge the stereotypes around gender and race. And hopefully, as a group in collaboration also, they are planning to develop an action plan that might be implemented in Northern Ireland.
Following on from that, from community safety perspective, we feel it's very important that victims and families of victims are able to obtain the information that they need when they need it. So when incidents occur, they know where to go to get support and services. It's very important. We believe hate incidents are underreported in Northern Ireland, and the Housing Executive are very keen that all incidents are reported to your local patch manager at your local Housing Executive office if you are the victim of or witness to a hate incident. It's also very important that the incidents are reported to the police service for Northern Ireland, or alternatively the hate crime advocacy service, who can take the victim through the process and assist them with that. And it's very important that we continue to work together and build on our partnerships that we already have in place to ensure that we have a really good working relationship for moving forward to tackle hate crime together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd agree there. I mean, I don't think most things that are done in a positive way in the community sector are always done in effective partnership. So I completely understand what you're saying there. I would say that Northern Ireland is quite a different place in 2021, maybe compared to 10 years ago. And I just wanted to ask, what are maybe some of the considerations and barriers to addressing hate crime today, maybe compared to the past?
I don't know if there are any different barriers to what we had in the past. I think hate crime is hate crime. It's embedded in people, is their understanding of the other. So it's how we break that barrier, and how do we create something that allows people to be in a safe space and learn about each other and not be threatened, but learn to maybe at first tolerate and then accept. So it's again about raising awareness, bridging the gaps that are between the existing divided communities, and doing it in a way that people feel comfortable. That's why when we talk about creating good relations projects, race relations projects, they are all about grassroots organizations coming up with their initiatives, because they know the people that they work with, they know their areas, they know their issues, and they also know what the people would be willing to engage in, how far they can push the boundaries and how far would it be too far. And it's those initiatives that we continue to be willing to support, so that together we can embrace difference and we can prevent further rise of hate crime.
And I suppose from a community safety perspective as well, it's building on the relations that we already have in place, we also support from community safety projects that would tackle hate harassment locally and as issues would arise. But I suppose it's about providing information and support as it is required, and ensuring that we're finding more and more people aren't aware of the support and the services that are out there. One initiative that we would have within the Housing Executive would be the Hate Harassment Toolkit, for example, that pulls together a lot of information on the support services, on what is termed under hate crime. People may not understand that that's exactly what it is and how it should be handled and how it should be reported. So the Hate Harassment Toolkit is meant initially for staff or any practitioners across Northern Ireland as a comprehensive tool on pieces of information and advice as a starting point, as a go-to. to help refer to support agencies that are out there. And I suppose it's on our website, it's available for any individual who would wish to have a read of that.
Hi, Margaret. Thanks for being with us here today. I just want to see if you wanted to start out telling us a bit about yourself and your current role within the Housing Executive.
Yep, hi Michael. My name's Margaret Gilbride and my current role is Acting Homelessness Policy Manager within Homeless Policy and Strategy. I suppose the main functions within my role or my remit would be translation of legislation into policy and guidance so that the operational staff have all they need really to deliver the homelessness service within the province.
Excellent. And I think one of the questions that would be interesting to hear from your side of the house in the Housing Executive is what happens when a victim of hate harassment doesn't live in the Housing Executive estates?
Okay, so I suppose really unlike Jill and Sylvia earlier on, a lot of their work would focus mainly within Housing Executive estates, therefore Housing Executive tenants and respective neighbours, etc. With Housing Executive, we're the statutory body responsible for the assessment of homelessness, therefore it's tenure free. So it's open to every tenure right across the board. So if an individual finds themselves a victim of hate crime or any sort of intimidation or harassment whatsoever, then they can come to us and we will carry out a homelessness assessment to see whether they meet the criteria for a full duty applicant status.
So, Margaret, if a Housing Executive resident or is a victim of hate crime, what should they do? Who should they contact and how should they go about getting support services?
Okay, so in the same manner that any individual finds themselves with any difficulty whatsoever with regards to their homelessness, they should contact the local Housing Solutions and support team. What those particular staff will do is do an interview with the individual and apply what we call the 4 tests of homelessness at the outset. Probably with regards to any hate crime or harassment or any intimidation of that sort of nature, what we find is a reluctance of the individual or the victim really to report to police or any other agency. So what we would be liking to do would be engage with the advocacy service and make referrals to an advocate who could then support the individual to maybe report the incident to the police and really reassure them that there won't be any reprisals, that we within our function under homelessness can also provide temporary accommodation if it's necessary and remove them from the location where the crime is being committed to somewhere of safety pending permanent relocation if that's what they want at the end of the day. There's a recognition right throughout the whole homelessness strand of the organisation that collaborative working is better than working in isolation. So it's vitally important that our staff are aware of what the Hate Crime Advocacy Service is all about and what the referral process is so that we can engage collaboratively to make that a more seamless, easy process for the individual when they find themselves faced in not a very pleasant situation.
Margaret, if you just want to explore a little bit about the partnership between the Hate Crime Advocacy Scheme and the Housing Executive and how we can work together to support victims.
I suppose the support of the victim from the Hate Crime Advocacy Service would be twofold, really from an organisational perspective. So when we're carrying out a homelessness assessment, what we've got to do is carry out investigations because we're like trying to confirm, ascertain exactly what's happened in order to achieve a positive outcome really for the individual at the end of it. And one of the channels that we would look at would be contacting the police to see whether the individual has reported to the police so that they could furnish us then with the report as to what may or may not have happened. Then we come against the obstacle if the individual hasn't necessarily reported it to the police. So that engagement then with the advocacy service would be absolutely vital if that individual can feel comfortable with the person who's advocating on their behalf to actually go to the PSNI, make a report and then sort of in a full circle, that report will come back to us and that will speed up and expedite the decision that can be made on the homelessness assessment. And again, that positive outcome for the customer at the end of the day would be much more positive and speedily done with the help of an advocate than without.